Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on InfoPath replacement, the InfoPath end of life coming soon, and how to move off of InfoPath to modern form solutions. Thank you for joining. We'll be going through some information about InfoPath, and then we'll go into some solutions that we have that can help you move from InfoPath forms to modern solutions. But before we get going, I do want to mention there is a questions box. In the question box, in your GoToWebinar screen there, you can enter in a question, and if we don't get to it during the webinar, we'll answer it after by email. So be sure to put in any questions. We're very glad to talk with people in that way. In a webinar, it isn't like a one-on-one conversation, but if you do put questions in, we can try and answer them. Also, I do want to point out, if anybody's interested in talking to us individually, either after this webinar, of course, then we can set up a meeting and have a phone call and discuss what's going on with your InfoPath replacement requirements and project that you're doing there. So let's get started. The first thing is, okay, got the first slide up. Let's go to the next one. I'm Scott Restivo, President and CEO, founder of Crow Canyon Software. We got started 22 years ago, where we have offices in California, Rhode Island. We also have a team in India that does some development work for us. We are a certified California small business. So we do a lot of work with not only California government, but also federal, state, county, all over the US and Canada, UK, all over the place, as well as many, many private industries and many verticals, whether it's education, healthcare, industry, or whatever. Our solutions range across the whole set of business process automation, or if you have a nonprofit organization or government or education, helping the organization run more efficiently. So we're a Microsoft preferred partner. And what we do here is we work with SharePoint, Microsoft Office 365, and Microsoft Teams to help you run the organization more effectively. We have the business applications, which are out-of-the-box solutions, ready to go. I'll show you what we have, a list of those a little later. Those you can just purchase and then install, and then you can use it to do whatever particular process it is, whether it's a service desk or purchasing or an HR or work orders or whatever. We also have NITRO Studio. NITRO Studio is what we'll talk quite a bit about today, and NITRO Studio is an application creation platform for Office 365 and SharePoint. It works on SharePoint on-premises 2013, 2016, and 2019, fully fledged, ready to go application creation platform for on-premises, but it also we have a version that runs in Office 365 and Microsoft Teams, and we're doing a lot in Microsoft Teams with Teams integration and using bots. We have something called the NITRO bot that is runs in Teams. I'll hopefully get a chance to show you that today. If not, we have other webinars coming up for that. And as you can see here on the slide, we also have custom solutions we build based on people's particular requirements, and then we also have the AI and bot services, which I did mention just briefly, but that is something that's really growing a lot in interest, and we do have information. We're not going to information on that. We're not going to focus on that in this webinar, but if you are interested, we have other webinars coming up, or again, we can show you some demonstrations one-on-one. I may be able to show you some of that today. It's really cool stuff. The bot, it runs in Teams and helps with automating business processes quite nicely. So, we do have a list of applications right here. You can see them on our website or just run through them. Help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities, equipment tracking, HR requests, security access requests. Well, I could read the whole list. But the point here is that if you're doing InfoPath replacement, you may have a form workflow solution going in InfoPath that could easily be replaced with one of our applications. And then you don't have to go through the whole process of building something on a new solution. You just put this out-of-the-box application in and you're ready to go. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, how, especially our request management system quite often can take the place of what you're doing in InfoPath forms and workflows, because a lot of what's going on are, requests for equipment or travel or time off or something like that. And our system of request management can easily fill that need right out of the box for minimal cost and effort. And maybe just some tweaking around the edges, some little bit of customization here and there. but basically can fit the bill quite quickly. Now we have a large number of resources on the InfoPath replacement, and we have an ebook. We have well, let me get over to our website here, and I'll show you that we have this large number of resources. Here's our website, showing right here, kind of small, but here we are. So we have our right here. It's the InfoPath replacement is one of our options here in these drop downs. InfoPath replacement solutions. We've been doing this for years, and we have a lot of information on it, a lot of possibilities. You can download our ebook right away. No gate there or anything where you have to fill out email. You can just go ahead and download it. We have a lot of information here, tools. We'll talk about NITRO Studio and InfoPath Replacement Manager. We have professional services that can help you get off InfoPath. And we have a form showcase. And then there's a lot of resources. And I've been doing these, we and other people in the company have been doing these webinars for quite some time here. And we have a lot of information on it. And really the go-to people for InfoPath replacement. We've been doing this for so long and have a lot of information on it. So let me go through a little bit about what's going on with InfoPath and get you kind of frame the conversation, so to speak. Here we are with InfoPath 2010 and 2013. Basically, hey, wait a minute, Jocelyn, we got to update this slide. It says extended support ended. It ended. This has already ended. So see, here's what's going on is that the clock is ticking, and July 2021 is coming up, and mainstream support for InfoPath 2013 will end. And then extended support just means that they won't be doing any more. Well, what it means is basically time to get off of InfoPath. Extended support really doesn't mean that much. They're not really going to help you out at all, Microsoft, that, and you're kind of on your own after July 2021. So really, the time is now to get off it. Let's look at the timeline here. I don't spend too much time on this, but I just want to make the point that InfoPath came out in 2003. That's 18 years ago now. And it ended development 8 years ago in 2013. And that was before, InfoPath came out before the iPhone, before Amazon Web Services, before Azure. I mean, just to give you a sense of how outdated it is. So it wasn't really developed at all for cloud or mobile services. No Azure, no iPhone. I mean, it didn't exist. So why would you create it for something that doesn't exist? So as they went through the development cycle for those 10 years, they just realized they couldn't retrofit that old technology to meet the requirements of modern solutions, modern business solutions. But meanwhile, we came up with our NITRO Studio, and that's been obviously accommodates all the mobile, cloud, and modern features that are out there, and we keep evolving and developing that. Now, if you look at this slide, it says Microsoft made this statement, now is the time to start thinking about migrating your InfoPath forms. Back in April of 2018, that's nearly 3 years ago, they were saying now. So if it was, now is even more now, right now. Now is right now. So the point to get off it, not only because of they ended development and no new features are being added, there's also no guarantee that Microsoft won't suddenly pull the plug if you're in Office 365 and say, well, we're not going to support InfoPath up there anymore, or SharePoint workflows. They did that last summer. They said we're no longer supporting SharePoint 2010 workflows in Office 365, and now SharePoint 2013 ones are going to end, I think, in February is the last I heard. It's only next month. So all of a sudden, Microsoft can just make changes to Office 365 that kick your InfoPath stuff to the curb. Whereas, on premises, you keep using as long as you use 2016. If you notice, 2026 is correlated with 2016, so SharePoint 2016 is good for 10 years. Basically, what they're saying is as long as we're supporting SharePoint, extended support for SharePoint Server 2016, we're going to keep the support going for InfoPath on the SharePoint 2016 servers. But if you're in Office 365, there's no guarantee they won't suddenly, just decide they don't want to do that anymore. I mean, because it's a cost and effort for them to maintain the environment that sustains InfoPath in Office 365, and they don't really feel any obligation to do that. And they can just say, we're not going to, give you short notice, say we're not going to support the SharePoint InfoPath form, the SharePoint workflows or the InfoPath forms, and all of a sudden you're like scrambling. That's what happened last fall. A lot of people were scrambling who were using SharePoint 2010 workflow to make changes. So why be in that mode? Why not get started right now and make changes? Not only for that reason, but also because Microsoft deprecated InfoPath because it's old and outdated. Why do you want to keep using software that's not mobile friendly, lacks responsive design? It's the compatibility with browsers. Browsers have moved on, Edge, Chrome, all that have moved on from 2013 by far. And InfoPath was only created, it's not created for the latest browsers. old outdated technology, longer being developed, and difficulty connecting. I don't think I have to belabor these points too much. I just want to make the point that it's only even if InfoPath was not being phased out, you still want to move off it, and get to more modern solutions that are really going to help your business run more efficiently. So that's the encouragement I have here. You can have upgrading, you can upgrade all your solutions that you're doing there, your forms and workflows with modern technology, in mobile, modern UI, more evolved database integration, portals. And one area we're especially going into, finding a lot of interest, at least growing, is the chatbots and AI services that we provide that are just not possible with InfoPath at all. And therefore, with our NITRO Studio and our NITRO bots, you just leave an InfoPath in the dust. There's no point in even staying on it. So the number one rule, and this seems obvious, but we do get people who just say, well, how to do it, but they say stop creating InfoPath forms. I mean, really, if you're doing it right now, even thinking about it, don't. Just say no. Just say no to InfoPath, and don't make yourself more trouble in the future. And so that means it's time to find another solution, right? So if you've got to create a form for somebody in your business or organization, what are you going to do? If you're so used to using InfoPath, what do you do? Well, you have to find another solution. And that's where we are emphasizing our NITRO Studio as a very strong contender for that position of the forms and workflow solution you want to use going forward on Office 365 or SharePoint on premises in Microsoft Teams. So some people ask a lot about this question of can I get automatic, is there a magic button I can just push that says InfoPath here, convert to whatever solution you want to use, whether it's NITRO Studio or other, can I just push a button and have it happen? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. We've tried a number of times, as long as we work with other vendors. I mean, we're in this business, what we do night and day, and we communicate with all the other people more or less, and no one's found a really good solution for taking the InfoPath form and moving it to a new format. What happens is you can kind of do it, sort of, kind of, maybe half done, but it ends up being more effort to fix a kind of half-baked form than to just create it from scratch with the new solution. Also, with the new solution, you're going to be able to incorporate a lot of new technologies that, why would you want to replicate the old anyway? And that's the forms. Forms, I mean by the UI, the layout of the form itself. You'd think that it could just be converted right over, but it doesn't work that way. You just create it from scratch. It seems the best way forward, just what we found out. The data can be migrated over. You can take data out of InfoPath Forms, what's been entered in by users in the past, and then put it into a database. And you can either import that database into a SharePoint list or just leave it in the database for archival purposes, whatever you want to do on that. And a lot of people start greenfield. They start all over from scratch with the new solution, and they don't, just let the other one kind of fizzle out. Maybe if there's any requests or anything that need to be, fulfilled, they will fulfill them, and then just let it, not create any new ones, and eventually it just becomes a legacy program that sits there as an archival. But if you did want to, you could move the data over, import it into a SharePoint list, and then have the data in a SharePoint list, and then create forms that will show the data. So it really depends on what you want to do. And that's where we have these conversations with our people, our customers, and we work these things out and find out, from what our experience is, what's the best way forward for these kind of things. And we find that a very interesting and engaging conversation. Workflows, no, they can't be transferred over. They just have to be created from scratch. So really starting with a project of taking the InfoPath form that perhaps is serving some valuable business function in your organization and moving it over to a new solution and doing it smoothly and in ways without interrupting or disturbing, any more than you need to be. So one way to do it, we thought this kind of methodology works, is you want to know what you have in place. We call that cataloging the forms. Now, if you just have 1 or 2 or 3 forms, you don't need to go through a big elaborate process here. But what you do is, what you want to do is know what you have in place. Okay, what forms? What does it do? Who's using it? Who are the players in this? How critical is it, and all that. So you want to get catalog, assess and analyze the catalog, so that you can eliminate unnecessary forms and say, look, no one's used this for years. There's no need for it. Let's just, one organization I ran into this was Lotus Notes, which we also helped convert people over to, but they had 1,000 Lotus Notes applications because people had just started creating them left and right, all over the place, kind of like it went wild, as they say in the organization, and all these applications sprang up. When they analyzed it, they only needed maybe 10% of those, like 100 or so, that were actually being used or have any value. So you definitely only want to convert what you need to, and put your effort and time and resources in the ones that are most valuable that you need to convert over. And you can also consider the alternatives. That's what I was talking about, using one of our applications right out of the box. No need to create it from scratch. You just go from that to that. You go from Toyota to Honda, or Honda Civic to Honda Accord or something. You just kind of like, you don't build the car from scratch. You just say, well, I'm just going to what I'm trying to say is you just put this full-fledged solution in place, ready to go, and you don't have to worry about converting it over. And then you implement it, of course. So a little bit more detail on this, on cataloging. I won't spend a lot of time on that. Basically, if you have good records, you can manually write it up, put it into a database or something like that, a spreadsheet, and use it that way. But we also provide scripts if needed, to where this one of our development team can work with you to run these scripts that will extract out what's going on your server as far as InfoPath Forms. Here's an example of an extract from one of our people, and what happens is you get all this information that comes out of running those PowerShell scripts to know what InfoPath Forms you have in there, and then you can take that and put that into our InfoPath Project Manager. Let me go to the next page here, next slide. And it says use the Crocan InfoPath Replacement Manager, and that's a tool we built in our NITRO Studio. Here, it's here, I know it's here. Where are you? Oh, here it is, it's one of these slides. InfoPath Project, right here, Project. So InfoPath Replacement Project Manager, right here, it's one of our tools built inside of NITRO using the NITRO Studio components. NITRO Studio is the application creation platform that underlies all our applications, and this is when we took our project manager and converted it more or less to be an InfoPath replacement manager. And what happens is every form that you saw listed in that spreadsheet is now here, and you get information about what the progress is, who's working on it, and all that. And you can say, well, does it need to be converted? Does it not? Or the sub-project? It's really project management going on for that InfoPath form, bringing in information that was extracted via the PowerShell scripts into a spreadsheet, and then importing that spreadsheet into our project management tool. And you can even do stuff like look at the images of what it used to look like in InfoPath. Should be coming up, right? Yeah, here's what it looks like in this. That's the InfoPath, and then you can look at what it looks like in the NITRO. And so it gives a team a real good way to kind of do this comparison and work on the project and really manage it. Manage, that's what we call it, manager, right? So then related items, milestones, pending tasks, and all that. So this is one way to manage this InfoPath replacement project. If you only have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, some minor number of forms, maybe that isn't necessary to go to this extent, or you might have your own replacement project manager in there. But we're doing large projects, and we found this kind of tool to be very useful. You can see what projects you have, what's your task, what's your milestone. Of course, this is also making a point that our project management tool can be used for many other purposes besides just InfoPath replacement. It's a little bit of a showing our project manager tool and all its capabilities of running inside of SharePoint and Office 365, either on premises or online. And then that you can utilize it for InfoPath replacement or other things. But so that's one way to do it, is to take, you get the list of forms, either manually, and then you can manage the project of replacing them quite nicely using the project manager if you happen to have a large number. And part of the management of it is to know what you want to eliminate. I already talked about this a little bit. We'll belabor it. Basically, you want to assess and analyze and eliminate the unnecessary forms and reduce your work. Use your time and resources most effectively of what is the most critical forms, which ones do you want to are absolutely required. And at the same time, as you look at each form, you can say what else needs to be done here. How can we improve this form? How can we make it more adapted to the modern environment we're working in right now, whether it has to be mobile friendly, or you want to add more dynamic elements to it, or you want to integrate with different databases, or you want to maybe do some Teams integration if you're on Office 365 and using Teams. So again, a plug about using one of our applications instead that can save. It's really just about saving you substantial time and effort just by having something ready to go right out of the box. I don't think I need to belabor that. If you're interested, you can get in touch, and we go into depth about any one of these applications, whether for InfoPath replacement or just because you want to use a application for other purposes. Maybe it's not to replace InfoPath, but you do have a need for a purchasing program or a work order program or whatever, and we could we could fulfill that need with one of our applications, regardless of whether it's replacing an InfoPath Forms or process or not. Okay, that leads us to NITRO Studio here. I can show you some of what's going on with NITRO Studio. I talked about the PowerShell scripts and exporting out the information and then using the project manager. Well, let's talk about NITRO Studio then and what it has. NITRO Studio is something we created. We were building applications for SharePoint ever since 2007. As we went along, we were building web parts and apps and all, Microsoft kept changing from on-premises web parts to, sandbox. I mean, all the process it went through. So we were developing web parts and apps and add-ons and all that all along. And finally, after some time, maybe 6 years ago, people were saying, well, this is a great platform. Can you kind of productize it? They didn't quite say it that way, but what they wanted to do is say, can we just buy the NITRO Studio and then build our own applications on top of it? So we thought about it and said, oh, that's right. We've been building applications and using NITRO Studio as the foundation for those applications. It was quite a great thing because we could go in and modify the web parts. We built them, we own them, it's ours. So we can modify them any way we want to adapt to the particular needs of, say, a help desk application or a purchasing application or a project management. We didn't have to wait for some third party, bring some third party tool in for the basic to serve the purpose of what we needed in that particular application. So we built this NITRO Studio, and it's really evolved since then. And now as people are using it, and we have an enthusiastic user group, we have a community forum, we have training, we issue certificates for training for it. People can get a certificate and put it on their resume if they like, that kind of thing. Anyway, so it has forms, workflows, reporting, portals, modern UI, chatbots, database integration, and Teams integration. It runs, let's make it clear, it runs in SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019 on premises, fully fledged, completely contained environment inside your on-premises world. What that does is gives people who do not want to have any connection to the outside, they just want to keep everything inside their firewall. NITRO Studio runs entirely in there, and we send you a link for updates, and you can download and update it as needed every once in a while, but basically everything that is self-contained within the SharePoint on-premises environment that you have inside your farm. The other method that NITRO Studio runs on is the Office 365, Microsoft 365, whatever. They kind of changed the name from Office 365 to Microsoft 365, but you all know what I mean. It's the Office 365 and Teams. And now with Teams getting a lot more emphasis over the last year with everybody working remotely, et cetera, we've really gone into Teams integration with it. So if you're on Office 365, and our app in NITRO Studio is fully integrated with Teams. You can run a Teams bot in there. That Teams bot will kick off a NITRO workflow that will then be not just a simple bot for FAQ, like question, answer, call, response kind of thing. It's actually a business process automation tool. So and I'll show you some of that. And I think I will have time to show you some of that a little bit later in this, soon. Later is soon. And let me go through some of the other things NITRO Studio can do. Our form designer is very, very powerful. We've done a lot with it. You have dynamic forms, responsive design, portable templates, linked items, repeating rows, custom actions, portal interfaces, database integration, electronic signature. I mean, it goes on and on. And what this came from is from our customers. Our customers kept saying, we knew what we needed in applications, but our customers kept saying, well, okay, that's good, but what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Well, that's the same conversations we always continue to have and would like to have with people, attending the webinar and want to explore what it takes to move off InfoPath or to build business process automation tools on Office 365 or SharePoint. That's what we do. This is our world and what we're involved in. And the conversations with customers are incredibly valuable in terms of feedback as to where it should go. So as we, over the last 3 or more years, we've been doing InfoPath replacement, we've evolved NITRO Forms to take care of many of the things that InfoPath does. So we feel like it's a very strong InfoPath replacement. And if you do say, hey, can it do this? Can it do that? Challenge you to this. The great. We love being challenged in that way and say, well, InfoPath can do this. Can you do that? And it's like, well, most of the time we can, but there's always maybe some new quirk or tweak or something we never imagined somebody would do. And there it is. And then our programmers get to work, and we come up with a new little enhancement to NITRO Forms and lo and behold, we're ready to go. And that's how we work here, you know. And one thing about Crow Canyon, we're very interactive with our customers. We get a lot of accolades about our support and our team, our training. We try and be as comprehensive with training and really help you be successful. That's the goal. You know, we also have a workflows and custom actions tool. Of course, you have to have that in any kind of business process automation, covering all whether simple or complex. The difference between workflows and custom actions, basically, you can either start a process by pushing a button on the form or in the ribbon, or workflows also can run behind the scenes or on a scheduled basis. So this is where, you know, talk to us so we can see what your process is doing and how it can be put into action through the NITRO workflows, whether it's approvals, escalations, auto assignment, task management, many things, including interactivity with databases is very important too. People want to read data, write data, pull information. So it isn't like NITRO Studio sits in a silo someplace, or your Office 365 applications don't sit in a silo, or SharePoint. They're interacting with their other systems that are part of your organization's you know, critical infrastructure. It could be reading from financial, it could be reading from ERP, HR, order system. You might have a form that says, you know, a customer calls up and says, hey, whatever happened to order number 12345 or whatever, and you can pull that up from a database and then have the form in our system record the customer's inquiry or question or complaint, hopefully not too much of a complaint, but, you know, whatever, is to help the customer be happier, but, you know, with what's going on with his or her order. But you're getting, you know, you're working in SharePoint or Office 365, but you're also communicating with databases on that are given information that's supplemental or important to the resolution of that case. See, so that kind of thing can go on quite well. We also have many other things inside of NITRO Studio. We include portals. You know, people don't want to necessarily use the SharePoint backend interface, so we have these nice intranet style portals for users or customers to engage with the system. That really gives a lot of freedom to design the interface to be what you like, with the right amount of information, kind of like an intranet. You can have all this documents and links and guidance on there, as well as the ability to create a new ticket or see existing tickets, as well as search knowledge bases using, and we include this feature of natural language processing with our searches. The AI service of natural language processing will be able to help, you know, the person who's coming in with the question or issue or request or whatever, to guide them through a resolution that maybe there's a link or an item in the knowledge base that will help him or her get a resolution right away, rather than create a ticket or make a request. So, you know, all kinds of things you can do, and that's where the bots come into play even more than portals, or along with portals, that if you're interacting with a bot in Teams, or you can actually do that on the website also, then the bot can engage in a conversation, so to speak, with the customer or employee, and then that will help them move them towards resolution without any human engagement. You know, that's the idea, and that's and admittedly that's still in a kind of nascent format. We're just really finding a wide range of people. Some people are very interested in it. They use Teams extensively, but most people are really just, you know, peeking in the door about bots. Let's say, you know, it sounds interesting. What's going on? You know, looking at. So, you know, we think we'll see a lot of movement in that over 2021 and 2022, and our NITRO bots evolving quite nicely to be ready for that kind of influx of bot interest and putting in place. So anyway, so we have portals, bots on it. Well, AI services, bots are kind of part of AI services. AI services mean Azure cognitive services, such as natural language processing, email sentiment analysis, data optimization, all kinds of things that we're bringing AI services through the use of Azure cognitive services to the everyday, so to speak, everyday user. You know, you don't have to have a big AI system going there, but you can leverage through our NITRO Studio and our NITRO bots the AI services that Microsoft and other large companies provide, and bring that of benefit to your organization, like natural language processing I mentioned, or email sentiment analysis, to know if the person writing the email is has indicators in the email of anger or frustration or whatever. You can escalate it to a manager by analyzing the incoming the content of the incoming email automatically. You know, so interesting things like that. You know, so we're also getting into image recognition and other things. But anyway, so that's a little I like to talk about it because it's nice, leading edge, fun stuff. But anyways, well, NITRO Studio also includes reporting and dashboards. You make these nice interfaces, whether in modern or classic UI. You do a lot of list formatting, email management, like where people send in emails and it all becomes part of the conversation you're having with the person. A lot of manipulation of the list to help provide the person working the request or tickets to quickly see what needs to be done, what's most highest important, so nothing falls through the cracks. And we work in the modern UI and Print Manager. Is a great feature for printing out either documents or generating invoices or purchase orders or whatever kind of document you want. And then we also have, of course, the Teams integration and bots. Microsoft Teams integration, we can post adaptive cards, we can create channels, we can communicate in channels, and you can work entirely inside of Teams and bots with that. So, okay, now, we have to look at the 800-pound gorilla, is it, or the elephant in the room? Is about, well, okay, what about the Power Platform? Hey, Scott, you've been talking all this about Power Business Process Automation, Office 365, and yada, yada. But what about, doesn't Microsoft have this thing called Power Platform? And yes, they do. Of course they do. It's called PowerApps, Power Automate, Power BI. And there's also something called virtual agents nowadays. And of course, the thing is you have to consider, well, isn't that, what Microsoft's, the way forward for replacing InfoPath? And of course, we've been doing this quite some time. We're in communication with Microsoft. We talk to the MVPs and the higher up. We have conversations with them. And the point is, PowerApps has a certain kind of capabilities and a certain kind of usefulness, but it has its limitations and costs. And there's some considerations. So, what we want to do is raise some some bit of doubt here and say, well, is it really an adequate InfoPath replacement solution? And is it really the way to go? Well, it can in some cases, but there's some things that it's missing out of what they call the seeded, or seeded is what's included in your Office 365 subscription. Now, one point you have to make right away, right here, I have to make, is this stuff, PowerApps, whatnot, does not work on SharePoint on premises. It works with a gateway connector, if you want to be technical. But if you don't have any kind of gateway connector going on, that's that on-premises connectivity that's called the data gateway, then you can't use PowerApps. You have to have another solution, and that's where we come in with our NITRO Studio on-premises, full-fledged, ready to go. PowerApps and the Power Platform's not even a consideration unless you want to get this set up this kind of complex data gateway and pay for it too. That's the other thing. Microsoft subscription, when you have an Office 365 subscription, you get a certain amount of capabilities, but you don't get everything there. So let's go through this list. It doesn't include premium connectors, including connectors to SQL databases. That's an extra cost. You have to go with the standalone version of PowerApps, which is not what comes with Office 365. What comes with Office 365 is called the seeded version. Seeded included, and it's limited, does not include premium connectors, does not include on-premises connectivity, does not include PowerApps portal licenses, whereas NITRO Studio, we come with portals. It has limited, Canvas apps, mean you have to build them from scratch and not, you don't get any templates, and there's a daily request limit. So there's some questions being raised on it, the daily API request limit. And the other thing is, again, there's no magic button where you push, the InfoPath to Power Platform magic button there. It doesn't happen. So you're still going to have to recreate all these forms and learn PowerApps and learn Power Automate. And here's even what Microsoft said about this 1 year ago. This is when they put out this licensing guide. Customers that need general purpose and full capabilities of the platform should license PowerApps on a standalone basis. And the same kind of thing they're saying about purchasing standalone Power Automate licenses. The full-fledged general purpose workflow business process automation capability. Well, this is, you can look this up. I'm not making this up. This is what their pricing is. So you get, $10 per user per month for 2 apps plus a portal, $40 per user per month for unlimited apps. So $40 per user per month, if you got 100 user organization, you're talking about $4,000 a month. It's not even that big a company. Some have 1,000 users, and there may be discounts in bulk and all that, but still you're close to 40K a month, and that's just PowerApps. What about Power Automate? Well, here you go. $15 per user per month, and the per user plan. So, you know, you're talking about, you add these together, like 55 per month. Remember, per month. I'm not talking like per year or anything, you know. So these prices are substantial if you go beyond what's seated inside of Office 365. Just be really careful. I mean, if you want to go that direction, we found that we used to go, when we used to go to shows, of course, before COVID and all that, we went to these shows like years and years and years, and we'd always would talk to people at our booth. We had a booth. Maybe some of you saw us there. It was a lot of fun. Of course, we haven't been anywhere for the last year, but you know, when we were doing that, we'd have we really could almost see like two kinds of people coming up to our booth. One is, oh, you're another forms and workflow solution. I'm going to use Power Platform. I just came out of this workshop and they're telling me how great Power Platform is, and there's no reason for me not to go forward with that. I said, okay, fine, go give it a try. Then there's other people come up and say, oh, I've been trying to use PowerApps and Power Automate for the last 2 or 3 months. Is there another solution? There's something else. It's just too difficult. I'm just telling you what we ran into and why we were inspired to keep going with our NITRO Studio, and could really see that the Power Platform was certainly, you know, the big gorilla in the room, but something that was not being suitable for everybody else. So what we did last spring is we had this webinar, Limitation of Cost, and we did a lot of research. I did a lot of research and found out some of the information. I could give another whole web. Maybe we'll even update that webinar again in March or something, and say, you know, people, be careful with the Power Platform. Has a lot of power, a lot of capabilities, but there are limits and costs to it that you need to be aware of before you jump into that pool with Microsoft. There, just a caution there about it, and also about what about the learning curve, the difficulty of using it. How good is support? You're trying to talk to, you know, $1.5 trillion company, you know, with hundreds of thousands of employees or whatever they have, and trying to get support from them, you know, versus us, where we've been known to, we're known for in being young, aggressive kind of company where we want our customers to be as successful as possible, and we provide great training, one-on-one conversations. We have a chat, support chat, we have the forum, so you can, I emphasize this because it's very valuable when you're in the middle of a problem of how you do this form, and somebody like, gosh darn it, how do you do this? And you can just communicate with the people actually creating the you know, programming stuff, and also get response from us to say, well, okay, you wanted to do that, let's see if we can build that in if it doesn't do it already, or we'll give you information you need to order to do it. So in order to use it in that way. And also, you know, like I said, NITRO Studio underlies all our applications. So if you get one of our applications, then you can modify it and tweak it and really make it fit your organization quite well by using the forms designer, the workflow manager, and everything else. And I know in this webinar I'm not going into the NITRO Studio as much as I would like to because it's limited in time. You know, maybe I could give you a cursory overview and just give you some screenshots of it. But I would look, all of us at the Crow Canyon would really like to show any of you what can be done with NITRO Studio and talk to you about your individual needs of InfoPath replacement and how this platform we developed and keep evolving, and that our customers are very enthusiastic about, how we can use it to perhaps serve your purposes there and bring this solutions to you to help you get off of InfoPath Forms as the clock is ticking, or just to replace any other legacy forms. Okay, what's our point here? Affordable and easy to use. Yes, it's much lower cost than, say, something like Nintex or something like that. You know, easy to use. One other point is all the capabilities you need are in the you know, you get either the tenant or the farm or site, whatever, you get the license, well, all the capabilities are there. It isn't like there's PowerApps for forms, Power Automate for workflow, Power BI for reporting, Power Virtual Agents, which are all paying for all this if you go beyond the basics for that. So we bring everything into one solution, and that's how we created NITRO Studio. We never were separate applications like one for form. You know, we built NITRO Studio from the ground up to work in SharePoint and Office 365 and Teams. No limitation what you can build. A lot of people say, you know, 25 workflows or something like this. A lot of people, you know, people came to us and said, hey, I don't know how many workflows I'm going to have. I mean, you know, I'm going to create 10, 20, 30. I don't know. I don't want to have, you know, every time I hit a limit, have to buy more. Have a limit, buy more. So we consciously decided to do our pricing by saying unlimited workflows. The only thing NITRO Studio is based on is the size of your organization. So the number of users or number of front-end servers if you're on premises. Once you get the license in place, for if you do it for like the Office 365 tenant, then you could create as many sites and site collections, use NITRO Studio, and as many forms and workflows as you want. And we felt like just being in the business ourselves, no, I just didn't like the idea of, oh, we hit a limit of 25. Okay, time to pay more money. 25 workflows, that's what I'm talking about. We hit a limit of 10 workflows. Okay, time to pay more money. We hit a limit of this, limit of that, time to pay more money. This way you get the one price, and this is, people came back and said, thank you, because that makes our budgeting very easy. We know that we're going to spend this much this year for the subscription, and we don't have this kind of uncertainty, big question mark hanging over our head as to what it's really going to cost us to do this. I was thinking of like this big library system in a big city was talking to me about that a few months ago, saying, geez, we got a budget, and if we don't know how many workflows we have going to need, and also, it constrains their growth because they're like, well, we really want to use it for that purpose, but we can't because it's going to run up our budget, So you see, I hope you can see the value in that kind of pricing model that we put in place. And of course, any comments or anything, open for feedback. Okay, no code required. Yeah, we do. You can add scripting. You can add some CSS, some JavaScript to ours. It's not required, but sometimes people want to do fancy stuff and go into even more directions than we have. But you don't have to have any coding experience. You can, everything's UI based and drag and drop kind of functionality. Again, I'm going to emphasize our great, pat ourselves on the back a little here, but we do want to emphasize our bona fides here. We're bona fide. So yes, great support and training capabilities. We really want to help you get it up and running. Learning curve is quick. It's not instant, but it's quick. And we have a lot of experience converting legacy programs. I mean, I go, I've been in this a long time. I go back to Lotus Notes and Access Forms and Outlook Forms. We started with doing Outlook Forms on VBA way back when. So, we have a lot of experience of what these programs were doing or why they were put in place and how to convert them over from whatever to the new solutions. And it's, exciting new solutions. So the I'll go into some demos right after this, but again, here's your NITRO Studio, your InfoPath replacement solution. Yes. Get in touch with us for a demo or trial. Where it's available in SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, Office 365, and we work in modern or classic UI. And we also now have the bots capability. So with we have about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes left. So I'm going to show you some of the things that go on, get out of the slideshow here, and go into the studio itself and show you some of the things going on here. Here's the InfoPath replacement we were looking at. So this is just a sample place that I can play around with called a access request system. This is just a demo, and not a demo, it's just like sort of like my playground in some ways to come in and start trying out all these different features. So anyway, you have this form. You can dress up the form with our form designer in many, many different ways. And this form is created inside our NITRO Studio. And NITRO Studio is part of the site. Okay, let me go back and I know I go through this a little quick. So there's a site called Access Requests, right? Or Trial 1, Access 1, whatever. It's a site inside of SharePoint. This site, underlying this site, well, actually this site over here is our NITRO Studio. This one right here, Access Request. Access Request System. Site is Access Request System. This is the site. So NITRO Studio is sitting there in the background underlying the access request system. And in NITRO Studio, you can go up to the site collection level, the admin level, and go see what's going on there. A bunch of resources. We have workshop. James is doing a workshop, I think, next week on the flow and workflows or something like that. We have a whole bunch of resources, workshops every month, support and training, version log, tutorials, resources. You also would see your subscription status here. It would say like what the status of your subscription is and all that. But most important is what's going on in the middle here. There's forms, workflows, the reports, the portal. Each one of these help you configure different parts of the application that you're trying to build. The most important ones being forms and workflows and custom action. But there are other ones, advanced, if you want to do a very advanced approval system where you have multi-levels and multi-conditional and all kinds of other parameters as far as your approvals go. You can use branding for the UI, custom actions or buttons on the form, email manager. and many other things that go here, different ways to link items together and lists. And it's quite a nice system for putting forms and workflows and business process automation together. So let's look at the forms designer. You go to access requests, which is the list in this site that I was just showing you of that new item. And you'll see that it is the form designer comes up, and you can anybody who has access to this, which of course you want to limit, to the admins, whatever, can come in and start modifying the form to do what they want quite easily, and then just go ahead and publish it. See? So here's the form. There's a new form that you can design a new form, edit form, display form. You can do them all in the same form, and then you have many capabilities here. Now this form designer, like I'm going to do a webinar, I think, sometime in February, just specifically on NITRO Studio 101 to show you in detail. It's not meant in this particular the webinar to show you all the many details of this, just to give you a cursory view. Here's the form designer. Okay, here's the form designer. We have different tabs, different things going on, different tables. Okay, I'll go through that a little slower. Different sections can show up based on different selections that are made here. So that gives you the ability to make the form very dynamic. Depending on what's chosen here, different things show up here. That's one thing. Another thing is that when you have any information from a requester, you can pull out information either from Active Directory or a database or a SharePoint list or something. So you can auto-fill a lot of parts of the form just by who is filling it out, and also, or who's put in the requester name or whatever you want to call it, client name, customer name. You can have different tabs or different sections show up because the person chose a SQL database, for example, so that you want the SQL database information to go in. You can have subtasks and related items. This could be repeating rows for purchasing. It could be, a project subtask, that kind of thing. You can also have different tables. You can have electronic signatures, and you can have, I don't know, I guess I haven't put anything on that yet. So, well, so we're back here on this form, and you can see, like, here's what the form looks like. And there's no SQL tab here, right? Or no Oracle tab. But if I go here and I decide I want a database of SQL, it shows up all of a sudden, right? And then a person can fill it out. And I did that in tabs just to make it more obvious. You can just have it show up as a section inside the form itself. So if I go here to contractor, there is now contractor name and contractor company, pulling from SharePoint list or from a database. And you've got the contract information. If you go back to employee, it goes back to just being an employee. So these are fairly simple, very straightforward form designer kind of things, just to show you, give you a very simple taste of what's possible, and you can go very much in depth with this if you wanted to make it. So let's say we're doing an ad. Now I choose a type of access of ad. Is it perpetual or temporary access? What's the start and end date? Now, behind the scenes on all this stuff, when the form is submitted, there's a number of workflows that can run that will say, okay, notify the SQL database administrator that someone's requesting addition, modification, or revoking of SQL rights or permissions or whatever. It's just an example in an access request form. Use your imagination perhaps and think of like all the different things that could go on. When a request is submitted, you want to inform somebody, you want to get the right information, you want to collect the information in a certain way, and then give it out to the proper manager or the other employees to act on. Best thing with this is just to come in and talk to us about what your InfoPath form is currently doing, and guaranteed we can do it inside of the forms designer here. There's so much we can do with these forms. I don't want to go into it in real depth because it's a whole world in itself, but I will show some of the other elements here. Where's the forms designer? It's over here. Form showcase. There's a bunch of forms, different kinds of forms we've done before, and we can, many different kinds of forms that you can create. And we can look at your InfoPath form and see how we can create that. I was back on right over here in the NITRO Studio access request system here. So along with the access request, so if I go into display mode, display to show you with that, now there's buttons up here on top, right? So the buttons do custom actions, and the custom actions will run whatever you define those custom actions to be. They run according to what you defined in your custom actions, and the actions or the workflows will run based on certain conditions inside the application. And now you have like a button that says escalate, and it'll do whatever escalate action is. The escalate action in this case, what is the escalate action in this case? Is it's going to tell me in a moment. It's right here. It's going to run this series of actions. Set priority to high, send email to James, and assign it to public. So escalation is now incorporating 3 different kinds of actions on the access request form right there. And a number of other ones here. And workflows also, we have all these different capabilities of what can be done with the actions. And here's your Teams integration down here, by the way. So you can do all these different things, one or more of them, just by pushing the button. So it makes this is what automation really comes down to. You say, okay, we're going to set up the workflow, set up the actions that click off when someone submits it. That's a type of run a workflow. When someone clicks a button, that's another type of workflow. And then they can run a whole series of actions. And even these actions can cascade into other actions. These actions can invoke another custom action. So you can say like invoke a workflow. So one of the actions could be to invoke a workflow that then runs another process altogether. And it could be a SharePoint workflow, which are getting outdated. This is almost not used very often, but one of our workflows, or even a Microsoft Power Automate, flow, these call them flow, but Power Automate workflow. So, what happens is your form becomes incredibly useful, not just for the UI and the layout and the, what you're looking at there in the initial screen, but also in the process that takes place after it is generated. It's submitted, and as it goes through, it's a fulfillment process right there of whether it needs to be assigned or needs to be escalated or needs to be managed in some way. Whatever your business process is, it's going to be able to be put into these buttons up here. You can escalate, assign to yourself, submit for approval. You can do all these other things. One thing you can do is you could print it according to certain print formats if you want. You can save it. Here's another flow running here. Save attachments to OneDrive. You can generate a document and attach it to here. So say someone has access and you want to generate an access certificate of access, you can do that. You can generate a quote. I mean, many things you can do. These are all set up. These are just actions you, as the workflow, as the form designer, workflow designer, are setting up to do. And you easily change or tweak them behind the scenes to do whatever your users need or your support team needs or your staff needs to get the business process done as efficiently as possible, and whatever needs to be generated from that. So that's a very cursory view, but I want to show you a few other things. I think we're getting up towards the top of the hour, but I'll show you a few other things that go on. If this is the back end of SharePoint, but you can have dashboards running. You can also have portals running. This is modern UI. Some people ask, oh, are you showing me classic? Does it run in modern? Yeah, it runs in modern and classic, and we have a whole set of modern UI web parts to help. Here's an example of an employee portal where a person is submitting a new request, and it could be just from one of these boxes, or it could be from up here. They can view their existing requests. They can search the knowledge base, take a look at its service catalog, know what services you have. I mean, you could dress this intranet kind of interface up many different ways. Of course, put your own logo here and all that, and go to a certain kind of dashboard. But notices, this is all just a matter of configuring the web parts that we provide and Microsoft provides to be as useful as possible for your employees. Now, that's a very cursory view of NITRO Studio. I mean, NITRO Studio, like I said, has here's a lot of possibilities and capabilities, including the Teams integration. And before I jump off and end this webinar, which is still, got some time, a few minutes, I'll ask for questions in a moment. I do want to show you the bot running in Teams. So here we go. For instance, we're gonna activate this bot, and I'm gonna do a whole thing on this in 2 weeks. This is gonna be a lot of fun to go through what the NITRO bot can do and how it can be configured to meet your exact. All this is highly configurable in the back end, but we have it set up so you can go here and say submit a leave request through Teams. I'm in Teams right now, talking to a bot, and it's saying submit leave request. So it's gonna give me the option to submit a leave request, a form. This will go. I'll create the request here inside of Teams as a user, and it will go into the backend SharePoint environment as a list item, And at the same time, it will send a message to the manager saying Scott's requested next week off or whatever. And then the manager in his or her team's environment would get a notice that I'm asking for that week off, and the person can, the manager can look at it in Teams and say, do I approve or disapprove? It'd be like buttons, action buttons, like just like there's a submit one right here. It'd be approve, deny, or whatever words you want to use, and the person can approve it. And once it's approved, it comes back to this user inside a team saying your request was approved. Meanwhile, all that information is recorded in the back-end system, so if someone wants to go to the back-end, the leave request system, they can see that there is a record of that. There's a calendar, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I'll show you that in 2 weeks in a lot more detail. That's what the webinar in 2 weeks more or less is about. It's Thursday, the 25th. No, what is it? 28th, sorry. Thursday the 28th, there is a webinar I'm going to give on the NITRO bot and specifically focus on leave request system and what can be done there. Now, of course, this can also apply to support, any kind of support. And with support, it gets a little bit different because with IT support, it's going to offer you a ticket before you even submit. Before you even go to submit one, it's going to say, here's some knowledge base, how can we help you? Here's some knowledge base articles that may apply. If these don't satisfy your request, then let's go submit an IT ticket. And that, again, it's given this interface inside of Teams and bot. The Teams bot is given this business process automation interface inside of Teams in order to allow people to, conduct business in a very straightforward and easy way. And what I'm seeing, in the long picture here, the long view, you might say, is that forms, InfoPath Forms, workflows, sort of getting like, how can I put it? It's almost like forms are getting outdated in some sense of the word, Are we still going to use them? A lot of people, it's just a matter of a cultural thing of people getting used to a new way of interacting through bots. But basically the forms are sort of like going to become more and more old school, I think, in the sense that you want to have a form. Of course, we're going to have a period of transition and we're going to be working with forms for quite some time because forms are necessary for the back end and all that. But more and more user engagement, customer engagement, employee engagement, I think will be through these bots, and not the form will be more for staff on the back end to do like what's necessary in a much more some things you just can't do in a bot. So when you're trying to fulfill a request or assign it or have multiple tasks assigned to one, complex thing, but the interface itself is likely to evolve into more and more into bots. So we're doing a lot of work in that, a lot of development, a lot of research into making these as useful and powerful as possible. So I just wanted to put that, kind of like in there as a something that's going on. Get the old brain cells cooking a little bit there, right? So I've been on it for an hour. Jocelyn, any questions? I mean, I go so much more to show about NITRO Studio itself, but any questions there, Jocelyn?
Hey folks, this is Jocelyn. I'm on your back end here answering questions. But Scott, no, there was a question about, do we have any business representation in Central Europe? But there seems to be a lot of understanding of what you're saying and a lot of interest in terms of what kind of exploration. If you could bring up a question or the answer for what is our pricing model, one of our folks has just asked us, Scott.
Yeah, right. The pricing is, we have conversations with people as to exactly what their needs are and all that. But in a general sense, the NITRO Studio, let me go to our pricing page here. And we price it per user well, there's two pricings going on here, NITRO Studio. We have Office 365 and Teams, it's priced per number of users, per month, paid annually. And for SharePoint on premises, it's per WFE server. We can, we'll talk with you whether you're a government or nonprofit, educational, all that kind of stuff, or whether you want a per site license, these kind of things that we can do to price it out for you the way you, it's important in pricing, in sales, of course, it's very important for pricing to have a conversation as to what your needs, what your, ambitions with the program are, how we can serve the purpose. And then we have that conversation. It's hard to just shout out pricing and say, like it's, $19.95 for this pack of, this bottle of whatever. So it's a little bit different. It's more particular, and what you're getting involved in is the NITRO Studio and our applications. Maybe maybe there's a bundle discount, maybe there's other kinds of things going on. You might want to include the bot, you might include training, and it's a commitment on our side to help you be successful and work on that. But I think the thing with that is have an individual conversation. Are there other questions? No, just that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you did answer about the Central Europe. Okay. So anybody who wants to talk with us further and have a one-on-one conversation and show what NITRO Studio can do, that's the kind of thing we do enjoy greatly, talking to people, finding out what's out there, what people are doing, what their challenges are, what their organization has in place and what needs to be done. It's very exciting and interesting because we feel we really bring a lot of benefit to the company or organization, helping them be more efficient. We've been in business 23 years now, and there's a reason for that. Obviously we've been helping these companies use Office 365, Teams, SharePoint on premises, even in the old days, Outlook and Exchange public folder, for so many years that we really believe in what we're doing and can help you out. But it's important to have the conversation and get in touch and make the progress. And you are running out of time with InfoPath replacement. It's really make 2021 your year to make that change, to make the commitment to move off of InfoPath. And we'll be right here to help you out with whatever programs that seems appropriate for you. Anyway, I don't want to keep going on and on because it's hit the top of the hour. I want to respect everybody's time, but we do appreciate you joining this, and we'll do some follow-up. We'll send out a recording at the end, a link to the recording, and we'll also be able to answer any questions. But hopefully, let me show up the slides of our contact information back to this slide here, and then that will put a cap on this webinar. So let me go here to the, come on guys, you gotta go to the next slide. Let's try, there it goes. So there's upcoming webinars. Like I said, there's a workshop next week. In 2 weeks, I'll be giving one on leave requests. It's really about bots and how leave requests can be used, bots can be used for leave requests. And then there's one about automating our asset management in February 11th. And 2 weeks after that, it's one about NITRO Studio 101. You can see that's at croquet.com/webinars. They're all free, no cost, just sign up, and we'll be glad to show you more and more about it. And here's how to contact us. Your phone number, sales, request a demo at our website. And also, you can join us, you can follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can look at our support site, croquet.help, and you'll see that there's some forums. We're just getting going on building up the NITRO Studio forum, for example. There's a support chats, there's information. And croquet.com is where the main website is, and you'll find a lot of information there also. So we hope to hear from you. We appreciate you joining the webinar, and I wish everyone to have does it work with Nintex? Was a question that came in. You could use Nintex along with our stuff, sure, why not? I mean, it's you would have to be careful not to put the same workflows on the same system, but sure, let's talk about that more if you want to. You can work with Nintex. Sometimes we replace Nintex because it's just, people are like, whoa, that's expensive, and they want to find a more affordable solution, and they don't need all the capabilities of it. They're not that large. Nintex seems to be trying to aim more for the large enterprise deals, robotic process automation and things like that. So, very complex supply chain stuff. So, but yeah, we work with Nintex. A simple question. You can work with it. Okay. Meanwhile, if there's, if you want to pop a question in, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll end the webinar, and I hope everyone has a fine and wonderful day, rest of the week. Thank you for attending.